Hello everyone, I am Shruti Pant, Assistant Professor, Department of Architecture, BLDA CET Vijaypura. In last few classes, we have been talking about what is urban design, its principles, elements of urban design, and also we have started with behavioral and perceptual approach towards the city, and we have spoken about few theories which support behavior and perception of the city. We had taken image of the city as one of the examples. Today we are talking about one more book which supports behavior and perception of the city. Here we are talking about Concise Townscape by Gordon Cullen. What do you mean by concise townscape, or what do you mean by townscape basically? Townscape is nothing but it is a visual coherence and organization of various buildings, streets, spaces which makes the urban environment or urban areas as such. Okay, and it also influence or major influences on architect, planners and other concerned fields which makes the city beautiful, livable, safely and securely. The city here is nothing, it is not only about the inhabitants, it is not only about the users, but it is the amenities which people uses on day to day basis for their livelihood. Townscape is nothing but it is one of the ways that can be used in terms of physical, visual and recognition by the physical form of the city, which is nothing but how the city will be developed in the form, city form, or the grain of the cities or urban fabric of the cities can be visually and physically identifiable. At the same time, we can also talk about how the shapes of some neighborhood arrangements can be, and some people will be having a emotional attachment towards the city, that also keep on adding to the townscape or the concise townscape. And also uh, it is a kind of linkage between the psychological and physical uh, perceivance by the observer, and it is kind of a physical form how the users can be remembered because of its shape or because of the size, because of the building mass, because of what kind of materials they'll be using, the color combination, the scale of the material, scale of the building. All these will keep on adding to the physical entity of the city, which anyone can or the user can able to remember very easily. For example, if you see these pictures, it talks about the townscape. In first picture, it basically talks about how the building mass, because of the scale of the building, and all the buildings have been located on bank of the river. They are kind of physically, it is eye catching to anyone, which will be very easy for any people to remember. If you talk about this second picture, which is in Dubai, it because of the scale of the building, because of the shape of the building, it is very easy to connect to the place by any people even though they have not visited the particular place physically. And third picture here talks about it is not only about the users, but it is not only about the buildings at the same time, but it is a combination of nature, built space and the users, how we are involving with the nature, how the buildings are coming up, and how building versus nature relationship is all about. All include forms a townscape of a particular city. See, and author here, what he tries to talk about is, instead of you going for a individual building, you go for a communities where you can save the money, at the same time you can have all the amenities which one can't afford individually. So advantage of being togetherness is, one, it will be safe to live in. Second one, if I can't handle all my amenities alone by myself, if I can't afford all amenities by myself, group of people can stay together and everyone contributes and everyone can enjoy all the amenities. At the same time, social gathering can also takes place, interaction between people will takes place, interaction between inhabitant will takes place, and if the crowd is more, the negative activities can also cut down. So these places will be very easy to live in. Here author tried to explain, instead of you going for a huge land and a small house, individual building, you go for a community level gathering or community level staying, which is more advantage than staying alone. And also you can save lot of money. At the same time you can enjoy all the amenities one community can offer to you. And here author also talks about, you get to people together, they will create the memories by probably having the interaction, by probably having the social gathering. Once the people gather, they can create a memory, they can create, and at the same time they can enjoy. But bring the people together, it will give you bring buildings together, it will give you a visual pleasure, and beautification of the city can happen. So basically author is trying to explain, get people together, bring people together, where you can enjoy, at the same time you can create the memories. At the same time, if building happens very continuously, you can get a visual pleasure to the eyes. At the same time you can enjoy the buildings also. And also he feels that there is art of relationship between the users and the building, because designing is nothing but art of creating something. And also you can take the elements to create the building environment. Building and city environment can't happen only by the users. Here it can happen with the buildings, streets, nature, water, traffic, advertising something, and all these together you kind of create the drama effect to the city, which create the urban environment altogether. So basically author tried to talks about create the dramatic effect to the city for a better livability and livability of the city. Here few researchers also talks about how is city making can happen. You can involve so many other field people also here. For example, socialist, engineers, traffic experts, economists, all these people can come together and they can create a healthy environment for the people or for the users. Here, Gordon Cullen actually describes the entire city, and he has been divided into four parts here. First one is serial vision, second one is place, third one is content, fourth one is tradition, functional tradition. What do you mean by these ones? Serial vision, which is nothing but serial vision is nothing but you can explain the series of buildings and non buildings, the nature, how anyone will get the visual effect of a particular street or particular place while walking from one place to another place. The how, it talks about how the town reveals itself in a series of revelations, nothing but it, the existing views will be there, the emerging views will be there, which are nothing but existing buildings will be there, few things will be coming up, or few elements will be emerging in the city. The combination of building, non building, built, unbuilt spaces, the nature all together will give the serial vision to the city. Recording by observer, viewing the image into pieces which gradually and form of integral image by the observer. Next one can talk, for example, these images gives you a serial vision which are nothing but the observer or the user can walk from one distance to another distance, what all physical elements the one can observe and able to remember, which is your serial vision. Second one is place. It is an instinctive and continuous habit of a body to relate to a particular set of environment. You have to feel that the sense of place has to be felt and it has to be understood. And the sense of the position can't be ignored because we need a particular place where we can feel safe. At the same time, according to the author, the places are wound observer, and what the people feel emotionally makes a lot of difference to the place. And all users will not be having a same connection to a particular place. Few people can have a emotional bonding to a particular place. Few people can just enjoy the particular place at that particular point of time. Basically, the place influence the people, at the same time people influence the place. The sense of the place has to be felt by the people, then only some value added will be happen to the particular place. As the third one, we are talking about the content. Content actually talks about not only about what type of buildings are there, or only users versus the building relationship, but what kind of textures the city is been using, the scale of the city, the style of the buildings, the characteristics what city is been holding, the personality of the city. At the same time, uniqueness of the city matters a lot here. All together will make a content of the city or the urban environment. And also it depends on how comfortable the space is to be utilized or to be live in. At the same time, what type of creativity you are using, which makes the users to stay there for a longer period of time. At the same time, it should have a uniqueness, it should have a unique identity, it should have some emotional bonding to a particular areas. One we are having is functional tradition. Functional tradition is nothing but how we are creating this urban environment depending on the function which happens on day-to-day activities by the users. Here, for example, if you take a public gathering space or parks in that matter, people will be sitting, chit chatting, kids will be playing, age old people will be having some nice time with the same age group people. At the same time, some kind of function will keep on happening there. So, basically, it talks about what all elements will make that particular urban environment more functional and usable. All these functional tradition mainly talks about public gathering spaces here, social gathering spaces where more and more people will be able to use that particular area. And actually an urban environment talks about different having a different objectives and how people will be using them, how the urban arrangement of a set of people and the users, and it also talks about how societies psychological as well as physical entity towards the city and the urban environment, and how people will get influenced by the city, how people will get influenced by a set of rules, the elements. At the same time, it also talk about the dimensions, and it talks about the geometrical shapes, it talks about the creating the ambience to the city. So here in Concise Townscape, it talks about the series of buildings. Also users will create the urban environment, and people will be having a emotional attachment, sentimental value towards some particular cities. And also we have to see to it what scale the city is, the style of the buildings, the urban fabric, the shape of the building, what how the city is being developed, it is organically developed or it is planned city, the shape of the cities, the dimensions of the cities, structure of the cities. At the same time, relationship between people versus building, built versus unbuilt, and objects versus the people and the users. Talking about public gathering space, the second image, this image talks about the market areas or function areas, and the third image talks about a street level where the particular street kids will be playing, walking, going to school, street level activity will be taken place. And in second image, the city level activity will be taken place. And third last image talks about the building. If you get the building together, they will give you the visual pleasure to your eyes. Thank you.